A few years back, we found some 16 millimeter film that my grandfather Clyde Hall took, put near 65 years ago. As I look at the old films and other old pictures of Oakley, I am reminded of the good old days. I'm reminded of home.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
I can remember when we used to haul our milk over before we started with Highland Dairy. We hauled our milk over on a wagon and loaded 10-gallon cans off the wagon into a conveyor where they went in, and the people that worked in the creamery dumped the milk, and then they washed the cans and steamed them, and they came out and we'd bring them home for the next day. Ed Sorensen and I were running the Shady Lane Dairy, also about 200 acres that we farmed. We received a plaque from the Camas Valley Soil Conservation saying that we were selected as the Farmer of the Year for 1972.
One of my first memories of Oakley is working in the old grist mill that was just south of the Brooklawn Creamery. One day each week we run a grinder to grind grain for people, and people came from Colville and almost to Heber. This grist mill and the sawmill was run by water power, and there was a big mill pond out back of the old creamery.
I remember the old schoolhouse. I went to school there when I was 6 years old. There was 3 rooms and 1 teacher for each room. At lunchtime, we would walk past the old mill pond to the store for candy. Sometimes we would see Indians there buying and trading at the store. They were really interesting to see, but they frightened me too. The Indians used to come to Oakley for a summer paradise. That's why there is that monument over in town. It was erected in 1939 by the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. Only the pond was behind it then, and it was easier to see. I remember going to the old church every Sunday. There was a big pot-bellied stove in the church that we got warm at when we arrived at church. When they built a church in Marion. They turned this old church into the Oakley Town Hall.
Oakley has always had a general store. First named Weber Mercantile, later Hall's Cash and Carry, then Farmers Center. Then Leo and Roberta bought a store from his father and used the name Weber Merc across the street. And there was a service station built, log cabin service. And later, after 25 years, we sold the building and the business to Ken. He calls it now Ken's Cash, and we sold the service station to Dutch.
This picture is a picture of the Oakley baseball team. I've always been so proud of it. They won a silver cup at the county fair in Colville around 1912. And they are from left to right. George Sidaway, coach, manager George Phillips, Lorenzo Frazier, Riker Johnson, Edith Franson, Warren Jensen, Arthur Frazier, which is my father, Clarence Frazier, Carl Horton, that is Roberta Frazier's father, Lee Stevens, Reed Stevens, and George Stevens. And it was these three brothers that started the creamery in Oakley.
As the first woman on the Oakley Town Board from January 59 to 60, the town board at that time promised to stick their necks out for the people of Oakley. And since every member before and after have kept the promise. We've had many great mayors. Robert Frazier, Warren Frazier, Frank Richards, Lyle Wild, Edith Franson, Fred Frazier, Bill Stevens, Leo Frazier, Sam Wild, Elma Wolstenhume, Kenneth Wolstenhume, and the mayor today, the man that brought the ancient water to town.